Hi, I'm Yoko. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. Today, I'll be making plant-based thick sandwich bento box. These sandwiches are packed with flavor and nutrient, and it's so fun to make. So let's get cooking. The first recipe is Veggie-full tempeh sandwich. So I'm gonna start with pickling the veggies. I'm going to cut 2 small carrots into julienne strips. I usually keep the skin on when I use the organic produce. It's gonna be more nutrient and less waste. Then place the cut up carrot into a jar. It's about 1 cup of julienne carrot strips. I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of raisins. If your raisin is coated with sugar or oil, you can remove them by pouring hot water over the raisins. In this way, raisins gonna be juicier and softer. Then back to the jar, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, 1 teaspoon of maple syrup, and a few pinches of salt. Mix with the fork, or if the jar is too full, I'm gonna put the lid on and shake well. Let's let this set to the side, and I'm gonna make another pickle. I'm going to shred 1 cup of red cabbage, transfer the shreds into a jar, and I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar and a few pinches of salt. Let's give it a good mix, and let's set this aside until we prepare the other ingredients. Next, I'm gonna prepare the tempeh. I'm gonna cut the tempeh to the width of the bread. Then I'm gonna cut in half and slice them to make them thinner pieces. The result should look like this. In the hot skillet on the medium heat, I'm going to add a tablespoon of olive oil, and when it's hot, I'm going to place the tempeh slice in a single layer on the pan. I'm going to cook this for a few minutes until the bottom of the tempeh becomes golden brown. Once the both sides become crispy, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of plant-based barbecue sauce. I'm going to coat the tempeh with barbecue sauce using the spatula and cook for another few minutes. While this cooks, I'm going to cut 1 small cucumber or half of a regular-sized cucumber into thin slices. And also let's cut an avocado into slices and drizzle some lemon juice to prevent browning. So now let's assemble the sandwich with all the ingredients. I'm gonna start with a piece of bread and a parchment paper to help build a thick sandwich. I'm gonna measure out the parchment paper to become 4 times longer than the length of the bread. It seems like a lot of paper, but you'll be surprised how thick this sandwich is gonna be. So place a piece of bread on the center of parchment paper. Spread 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard. I'm gonna place a handful of leafy greens followed by cucumber slices. Then I'm gonna place the pickled carrot, layer of barbecue tempeh, sliced avocados. On top of that goes pickled red cabbage and another layer of leafy greens. Here I'm using green lettuce. By placing the leafy greens on the outer layer just by the bread, you can prevent the bread from absorbing all the moisture from the veggies. Now spread a teaspoon of Dijon mustard on the other half of the bread, and let's complete the sandwich. Now I'm gonna wrap this up with the parchment paper. Lift the both ends of the parchment paper and hold together. And here I'm gonna start folding both ends together until it's tight enough to secure the sandwich in place. Now tuck in the sides tightly, and you'll get triangle-shaped excess paper on top and the bottom. So I'm gonna fold them into the bottom. Let's repeat the same step on the other side. So now you got thick sandwich secure in place. So I'm gonna let it sit for about 10 minutes before cut. It's much easier to cut nicely after the wait. Now let's cut in halves. It's much easier to cut when it's still wrapped in the parchment. So I'm gonna cut through the parchment. And here it is! Thick and full of ingredient sandwich is ready to be enjoyed. This is so thick, so I usually get full with half the sandwich. So I always pack half for lunch and save the other half for later. So when I pack this into a bento box, I'm just gonna place half of the sandwich into a box. I'm gonna place fresh berries and almonds along with the sandwich to complete the meal. This sandwich is so fun, full of nutrient and veggies. You can prepare all the ingredients the night before and assemble in the morning. If you have any leftover veggies or protein, you can also throw them in to make a fun sandwich. Have fun with it and be creative with your sandwich. Next, let's make tahini sweet potato and black bean sandwich bento box. I'm gonna start with preparing the sweet potato. Here, I'm using Japanese sweet potato cut into bite-sized chunks. Now, transfer this to a small saucepan and cover with the water. I'm gonna cook this on the medium heat with the lid on until the sweet potato becomes fork tender. While this cooks, I'm gonna cut half an apple, remove the core, and cut into small slices. Transfer these to the bowl, and I'm gonna squeeze half of the lemon. This prevents apple from browning and also give a nice sourness and flavor. Also, I'm gonna add a pinch of salt to balance out the flavor. Give it a good mix and set it aside. Now, sweet potato should be nice and tender. I'm gonna discard the excess water and transfer it to the bowl. I'm gonna mash them with the back of my fork until it becomes nice and creamy. To this, I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of tahini, 1 teaspoon of maple syrup, and a pinch of salt. Let's give it a stir until it's nicely combined. So once it's become nice and creamy, I'm gonna add sliced apple. This gives crunchy texture and tart flavor. Half a cup of black beans. This is a protein source of this sandwich and it goes really well with sweet potato mash. And 3 tablespoons of raisins. I'm gonna give it a gentle stir to incorporate all the ingredients. Now let's build up our sandwich. Onto the piece of parchment, which is 4 times longer than the size of the bread. I'm gonna place a bottom side of my sandwich bread and spread 1 teaspoon of tahini. Then I'm gonna layer the handful of leafy greens. Like I said before, this protects bread from the moisture. Then I'm gonna place the sweet potato mash. The recipe makes 2 sandwiches, so I'm gonna use half of a sweet potato mash I made. Then I'm gonna place another layer of leafy greens. I'm gonna spread another teaspoon of tahini on the piece of bread and close it up. Now I'm gonna use the same technique to wrap up this sandwich with the parchment paper. You wanna wrap it tightly, but try not to squeeze it. The filling of this sandwich is so soft and creamy, so they might escape from the bread. Fold in the excess paper to the bottom. Then I'm gonna let it sit for about 10 minutes. Now let's cut it up to see the inside. This is sweet, rich, and creamy. So for the finishing touch, I'm going to add a dash of cinnamon powder, or you can even use pumpkin pie spice for this. So when I pack this into my bento box, I want to add extra veggies and protein. So I'm adding extra lettuce, carrot sticks, and cucumber sticks, along with the hummus to the bin. And I'm gonna sprinkle some pumpkin seeds to add a fun crunchy texture to my sandwich. So here's a completed sandwich bento box. This sandwich will satisfy your sweet craving while providing rich nutrient and energy. Here I'm using lettuce because they have nice crunch and so fun to bite in. But feel free to use any greens you have on hand. Making thick sandwich is so fun and you'll be surprised how much that one sandwich can hold. So I hope you enjoyed 2 kinds of plant-based sandwich bento box ideas. If you find this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next one. Bye!